let's talk about how to care for your down sleeping bag. It's pretty intimidating, but washing your sleeping bag is equally as important as changing the oil in your truck. If you neglect it, something's definitely going to go wrong. So some things to consider before getting started. One, you're going to want a front load washing machine or a modern top load that doesn't have an agitator. And I stress that because agitators will twist and bind your sleeping bag, damage your zipper, or stress some seams. So please make sure you avoid using an agitator. Dryer, you want to make sure that you also have a modern dryer. Older dryers can cause garments to get stuck in one location, especially up against the heating element, and you run the risk of melting. So make sure you have a modern dryer. Another thing to note is that the hydrophobic treatment on the down isn't permanent. It's going to last you 8 to 10 wash dry cycles. So if you're washing your sleeping bag once a year, you're going to get at least 8 to 10 years out of it. But with that said, you can always retreat your down. Grainger's makes a down care kit that will revitalize or retreat that down inside your sleeping bag. But again, I wouldn't use this until after those 8 to 10 wash dry cycles. All right, so let's get started. You're first gonna wanna fully zip your sleeping bag so you don't run the risk of damaging your zippers. You're gonna wanna use a down wash from trusted brands like Wax, ReviveX, or Grainger's. Grainger's makes a kit called Down Wash that also includes some dryer balls. I highly recommend it. From there, you're going to want to wash it on a warm, gentle cycle. We're going to want to rinse it twice so we remove any extra detergent or grime. And then we're going to want to spin it an extra time just to remove any additional moisture. All right, so now that you've washed it, your sleeping bag is going to look like a wet dog. That thing is going to have zero loft in it and be fully saturated. So one thing to keep in mind, when you put it in the dryer, it's going to take 3 to 5 hours on low heat for this thing to fully rebound. And it's important that you keep it in that dryer until that sleeping bag is as fully lofted as it was when you put it in the washing machine. All right, so while your sleeping bag's in the washing machine, let's talk about DWR. DWR stands for Durable Water Repellency. Envision it like a bunch of little fingers on the face fabric of your sleeping bag. Those little fingers are passing water droplets across it. However, through abrasion, which includes stuffing your sleeping bag in a stuffed sack, rolling around on top of your sleeping bag, with that abrasion, you mat the DWR down. And the value of that DWR is repelling moisture from even getting into to that hydrophobic down. So it's really important to maintain the DWR on your sleeping bag. And the way that you do that is by drying it. And so it's really important to apply direct heat to a sleeping bag, not only to get the fullest rebound out of your down, aka as much loft after washing your sleeping bag, but that dry cycle, that tumble cycle, is going to redistribute DWR and really revitalize or get those little fingers to stand back up. So that way they're passing water droplets across the face fabric. So think about your feet in a sleeping bag rubbing up against the inside of your tent, condensation dripping down. You want to make sure that that DWR is fully revitalized to keep water from getting inside that environment. All right, so we talked about DWR and the importance of a dry cycle, how you dry your sleeping bag. So you're going to note, once you take your sleeping bag out of the washing machine, it's going to be fully saturated. So when you put it in the dryer, it's going to take at least 3 to 5 hours for that thing to fully rebound, to get as lofted as it was originally when you took it out of the package. It's really important that you fully dry your sleeping bag. So what I like to do is, after I've dried it for that 3 to 5 hours, I'll hang it overnight. If there's any moisture before you stuff it or put it, not in a stuffed sack, but before you store it in a storage sack, mildew can build, and mildew will ruin gear faster than anything else that's out there. So again, I like to hang it overnight to ensure that it's fully dry. So the last thing that we should talk about is how often you should wash your sleeping bag. There's not really a standard rule, but you want to wash it whenever it's starting to feel grimy. If you're on a 4-day trip, it's going to be fine. But if you're out there for 10, 12 days or a whole season, you're definitely going to want to wash it when you get back. And I highly recommend washing it sooner rather than later. The longer it stays stored, compressed, the more likely you're just getting more grime, dirt into your down, and that's going to impact the loftiness or the R value of your down. So if it's questionable whether you should wash it or not, I recommend washing it. If you have any other questions, please shoot us an email, customerservice@peaksequipment.com. Thanks, and thrive on the mountain.